apologize. You know, if I'm with a rude neighbor, a bully neighbor, and there's also a chance that I was also being insensitive or a bully or rude in some way, and if he calls me on that, or if I already know I was, I should say, I apologize for scratching your car, or I apologize for throwing a rock at your window, okay? Apologize for what you did, okay? And offer to make it right. So if we had a conflict and I threw a rock in his window, right? I say, as part of the peace treaty, I am offering to pay for the cost of that window. See that right there? So now, are you willing to concede, and are you willing to so your reasonableness and your willingness to apologize and to fix whatever you did wrong is going to make him 1,000 times more likely to also apologize and fix what he did wrong. Okay? So that is how we do this. Okay? So remember, apology when necessary. Okay? Because usually in a fight, it's mutual back and forth, and this said that and this did that, and if he scratched my car, I'm gonna pop his tires. See, so apologize for what you did, offer to make it right, and okay, compromise, okay, be flexible, right? Be flexible, be reasonable. And that's an important word, reasonable, because when the courts look at who's right and who's wrong, they use the hat. They put on a hat of what would a reasonable person think in this situation? How would a reasonable person act, right? So that matters a lot, reasonableness, okay? Okay. Your cell phone can record abuse from your neighbor, your Ring doorbell, your security cameras. Okay, so we confront the neighbor with the evidence, and you have to have evidence. If he refuses the mediation or to, squash the beef, then we say, look, I have evidence of your harassment. I'm going to call the police, and I'm going to hire a lawyer. Is this, we're going to go down this road if we can't mediate, right? So you're going to go down that road. We're trying to avoid that, but if he doesn't, you should say, hey, okay, I guess the next step is a conversation with the police, right? Okay. Restraining orders, you need a police report for, so the police officer sees the evidence of harassment. You show him, broken window, or you show him, a video of him, guy popping your tires, okay? You have to show evidence. The broken window is evidence of a broken window, but did you catch a video of him breaking your window? Or admitting that he broke your window? Otherwise, then it's not evidence, okay? So, with evidence, we can file a police report. When the police make their report, now we have enough evidence in the police report to ask the court for a protection order or a restraining order. But keep that person away from you, from messing with you again, okay? That is a goal, okay? That will be granted with strong evidence of harassment, okay? If it's a code enforcement kind of thing, right? Like dumping poop in your backyard, right? Or, a drunk guy up on the balcony above you peeing off the back of the balcony, okay? That's a health code violation, okay? Or code enforcement. Okay, so we have evidence of this happening, we're going to take it to the appropriate authority. The appropriate authority for some violations, like noise complaint, it could be code enforcement, it could be the police department, it could be the HOA association, the landlord. It depends on the situation. Vicious dogs, well, the authority would be animal control. It depends on how the neighbor is harassing you, right? As to which ally you're going to contact for a remedy, okay? So one of your main allies in this whole thing is an attorney, and we're getting towards that place. We tried the private investigator. He's affordable. He's only 16 bucks an hour. He's cheap. And he'll do the background check, and he'll approach the neighbor and say, hey, I'm here. I've been asked here to mediate between you two and try to come up with a solution where you both can live without messing with each other. If that fails, then we go to an attorney. And attorney starts at $1,000 per court hour, okay? So it's up there, okay? However, when you file suit, a civil case against your neighbor, you're forcing him to hire an attorney, because if he goes to court with no attorney and you go to court with an attorney, you're for sure going to win, because that's like Mike Tyson boxing a third grade bully. It's not going to, the attorney is a master in the world of the court, and the average guy, the bully neighbor, with no attorney, he will lose and you will win. So you're forcing him to pay $1,000 to hire an attorney. And he cannot recover attorney's fees in this situation, because it's just not, it's not part of the, okay, at least not in my state. So the attorney is going to send a letter. This letter won't cost $1,000. This letter will be on very official letterhead. The attorney, it's going to send a letter to the neighbor. And it's going to say, hey, I have seen evidence that you are harassing and threatening my client. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to either do this, or we're going to get a cease and desist and take you to court. We could sue you, and we could press charges on you for and so I again would like to mediate this. So I will give my lawyer a bonus. I say, look, if you can stop this and put in the letter, say, contact me right away before we have no choice but to take this to court. Our goal is to find a solution where you can both avoid court and avoid escalating. Again with the mediation. Why? Now he's paying attention. If you send me a letter from a lawyer, from an attorney, I'm paying attention. I'm not ignoring that, because I know that after that comes police and courts. So I'm going to pay attention to that letter. And if there's a clause in there, first it says, hey, this is what you did wrong. We have evidence. This is the laws you broke, and we can get these remedies. Call us. Let's try to solve this without court or police. I'm going to call and say, all right, and my attitude's going to be different with an attorney letter. So your first thing when you get the attorney is to send a cease and desist letter to the neighbor that says, hey, stop harassing my client. We have evidence of the harassment. We don't want to continue. We don't want to file in court. You need to call us so we can mediate this, or if we don't hear from you, we're going to file an action in court. We're already there. So if it gets resolved, and the guy calls and says, all right, I think this is enough. I'm going to play nice. Once he plays nice, then it's all done. Okay? If he doesn't play nice, the lawyer's going to file for a cease and desist, restraining order, and for anything else that the lawyer in his mind feels he could file for. Okay? So, yeah, when you file a civil action, your neighbor's going to have to pay a minimum $1,000 to retain a lawyer. That's a minimum. I never heard of a lawyer. They don't even talk in hundreds of dollars. It's thousands of dollars. And the cheapest one is going to be $1,000. So this is going to convince your neighbor to settle the dispute, because you're going to bleed him. You know, every time you go to court, it really comes to who's got the deeper pocket or who's making sense. I'm trying to stop this, right? So, you know, every time we're giving him an offer, hey, do you want to stop this? We could settle this case right now with you promising to leave leave Alex alone, and he promises to leave you alone. So that becomes more and more interesting, and becomes more and more desirable as we start getting into lawyers. Okay. So, but again, you must have evidence. Okay. So we have outlined in detail the procedure you will take with bad neighbors. Let's do a summary. Okay, certain neighbors, you cannot do anything about them. If your bully neighbor is a gang, a neighborhood gang, if your bully neighbor is a gun nut with a lot of guns and he's crazy. Okay, if your neighbor is a crack house, a crack den, a drug den, okay, I would recommend you move, because your neighborhood sounds terrible. If you're living next door in an apartment to two vicious pit bulls, like that one story, right? Move. You're not safe. You're not safe. So I would recommend you move. Okay? So certain neighbors are so bad that you can't fix the whole neighborhood. You can't fix the gang problem. Okay? You can't fix the terrible neighborhood you live in. So move. That's my advice. For all the other people, okay, the procedure is this. 1, who am I dealing with? Okay, me and that neighbor's been messing with me, throwing poop in my yard, playing music at night. Okay, who is he? I'm hiring a private investigator. I want to do a background check on my neighbor. I want to know everything about him, everything you could possibly find out about him. Where does he work? How old is he? What's his full name? Does he have a criminal record? Is he on probation or parole? Does he have a drug problem? Does he have a health problem? I want to know everything all the dirt you can scoop on him, okay? So now I know I'm looking for weaknesses in my enemy or my adversary. Because our goal is not to make an enemy. Our goal is not to make this problem bigger, make it smaller, okay? So, we see on the background check and that the investigator did, we see, oh, he's on parole. Oh, well, I'm just going to call parole and say, hey, dude's harassing me. He's on parole. Could you please take care of him? They'll come right out and arrest him. It's like fast service, man. So you have the advantage. If he's bulletproof on the background check and you see there's no obvious weaknesses there, okay, we hire that same private investigator. He already knows the situation. That's why we're hiring him. Okay, say, hey, I want to hire you to approach my neighbor and offer a peace treaty and see if he's open to talk terms of peace where I respect him, he respects me. If he accepts that, great. We're going to talk about, hey, all I need for you is to not throw poop in my yard and not play your music after 8 p.m. In exchange, I'm going to give you whatever respect. Am I disrespecting you in any way? Ask. Because if you're not, it makes you seem very reasonable. If I am disrespecting you, please tell me so I can change my behavior. Okay, so I'm not? Okay, then. We have an agreement. All right. If he breaks that agreement at a later time or he refuses the agreement, What's our next course? We have to have evidence of the harassment. We must have it. That may take months to develop, to gather evidence, which means security cameras, Ring doorbell, and using your cell phone. When a personal confrontation, you just hold on a minute and you just turn on your cell phone, hold it in your hand. Okay, so now what were you saying? And he said, could you speak up? I'm a little hard of hearing. You want to get a good recording, okay? Because now you're building a case of evidence of the harassment, okay? So now you've got evidence, right? And now you're going to determine which ally is best to help you. There are attorneys that specialize in neighbor disputes, okay? So that would be an obvious ally. Also, if he did break an actual law and you have video evidence that he broke this law, like your window is broken, you have him on Ring doorbell, walking over and breaking the window, and right? Then call the police, right? It's time to call the police, all right? So that's why you need your place protected with cameras. That's the evidence that we need to show harassment. Now we can call the appropriate authority, or it depends on the situation. If it's violence, call the police right away. You got proof, right? He hit me. Here, look at what he did to my face, right? That's violent, and you got proof, right? Look what he did, right? But what if he says you hit him first, right? Or so I want you to have camera evidence. I want you to have evidence. So when you see him approaching you, take out your phone and record, okay? If you see him on the cameras on your property, you've got evidence that he's on your property and trespassing, right? So with that evidence, I personally recommend you find one of those neighbor dispute attorneys, okay? An attorney willing to file a cease and desist letter. That's the first shot, where it's on his official letterhead. The lawyer sends a letter to the bad neighbor. Says, hey, I have seen video evidence of your harassment, and you are breaking such and such laws. And if you're not open to the idea of a mediation to where we can have a ceasefire I'm going to file a complaint with the district attorney and have you investigated by law enforcement. I'm going to submit this evidence. Have him word it in his language. But our goal in the letter is to mediate, is to shrink this problem, to solve the problem, not to blow it up and say, I'm going to call the police, I'm taking you to court. It's to shrink it. We're going to say, hey, you rejected our mediation with the private investigator. Now, this is our intention of what we're going to do. We're going to take you to court. We're going to file a police report. Are you sure you don't want to reconsider mediation? That should be how we end it. Okay? And remember, do lawyers like it when you squash a problem or when it grows? They like it when the problem gets bigger, right? So don't listen to what the lawyer's advising. He's going to say, oh yeah, let's file a police report, let's take him to court, because now you got to hire him for multiple court visits. Don't do that. The last part of the letter says, my goal here is mediation to solve this problem. Please contact the lawyer, and we're going to discuss an arbitration where we can both come to a mutually agreed agreement that is binding and will protect both of us. So something fair, a fair solution to this conflict. Okay, so the lawyer sends that letter. That's not expensive. It's just a letter. Okay, it's not a court visit. Okay, so it's not going to be expensive. If he rejects that, Okay, on your lawyer's advice, should we call the police? All right, let's call the police and show them the video of the harassment. Let's file a case in court, a civil case of harassment with the goal of a civil protection order. Okay, so that is our goal to remedy the bad neighbor. We do it in steps because we want this thing to be solved in as small a problem as possible, not grow. Okay, these conflicts have an ability to grow, to become deadly. So we want to stop that. Okay, I think we've covered bully neighbors completely, and good luck.